The freedom dividend is very bipartisan. The state that's had a dividend for the last 39 years is a deep red Republican state, Alaska, which funds it with oil. And I'm going around the country saying that technology is the oil of the 21st century. And this policy, it's not left, it's not right, it's forward, and that's where we have to go. Yeah, so the toughest part about taxing automation is that it's unclear what automation looks like in real life a lot of the time. Like if you walk into a CVS and there's an iPad where there used to be a cashier, is that automation? You could argue yes. You could argue maybe they needed to do it. But we have the money. Amazon literally did pay 0 in federal taxes last year. And that's not unusual for them. Their lifetime tax rate is 3%. So think about that. You get $1 trillion company paying 0 in taxes, and then you say, like, well, where's the money going to come from? Because our economy is now so massive at $20 trillion plus, a mild value-added tax at even half the European level generates over $800 billion in new revenue. And the beautiful thing about putting this money into our hands is that it doesn't disappear. It circulates over and over again in the economy. It goes to our own bills and like school loans and car repairs we've been putting off. It builds a trickle-up economy. And so you get back a lot of the money in consumer spending and growth. You get back a lot of the money in lower costs in things like incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room healthcare, direct costs we're spending $1 trillion plus on. And this is the thing that is apparent, is most exciting. You increase GDP by $700 billion just by having better health and education outcomes for your people. How many of you all work at Dwala? So if you work at Dwala, you work for a really good company led by genuine leaders who care about you. And so what they talk about all the time is like, invest in our people. Invest in our people, then our company will do better. In the public space, we have the opposite approach. It's like, do not invest in anyone. And then we end up paying for it anyway on the back end when they wind up in our jails or emergency rooms or shelters. I was with, this is very politician-y, but I'm in Iowa, so I guess it's okay. I was with a prison guard in New Hampshire, and he said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we pay so much when they're in jail. And so this is the new way to invest in our people, but we have to take it beyond the companies like Dwala and the tech universe. We have to take it to our entire citizenry. So I'm of the opinion that it should be up to women to decide reproductive rights, and that men should just leave the room. And I have a feeling I know how women would decide on reproductive issues. And so to me, it would be an issue that women should decide for themselves. I mean, in an ideal world, every unborn child would be coming into a society that's welcoming them with open arms. And I would suggest that one way to make this more of a reality would be to put $1,000 a month in the hands of every American adult so that if you are pregnant, then you have the resources available to care for that child.
Aaron, thank you.
The great thing, Adam, is that if you're getting a dividend, all you have to do is be a citizen, and there's very little fraud involved. You know where there's a ton of fraud? Our existing welfare programs, our existing disability programs. Unfortunately, a lot of the money that's right now going out is very subject to very bad incentives. And you have an entire legal industry designed to help people access government benefits. If there's a universal dividend that everyone gets it actually eliminates and reduces fraud.
How big would you expect the bureaucracy to be that administers this program? Certainly it's going to be much, by an order of magnitude, huge compared to Social Security.
It's, again, quite the opposite, and all you have to do is look at the experience in Alaska, where everyone in Alaska receives a dividend of between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, and all they have to do is affirm that you're an Alaskan citizen, and then you get the money. So there's very limited bureaucracy. It's much of a lighter lift than having case managers and reporting requirements, trying to make sure that you're still in need. All of that disappears.
What happens if Randy in Laconia doesn't get his check this month? Who does he call?
Well, he calls the government and says, hey, where's my check? But the great thing is our government is quite good at sending large numbers of checks to large numbers of Americans every day. It's one of the few core competencies our government possesses. We have to lean into that in order to get buying power into the hands of people here in New Hampshire. Well, I've got over 100 technologists who've endorsed me and are supporting my campaign personally, but a majority of Democrats support universal basic income or the freedom dividend. And this is not my idea. The primary proponent of this was Dr. Martin Luther King. in 1967 in his book, Chaos Our Community. And that last year, before he was killed, he was going around giving speeches saying, we need to have a guaranteed minimum income in this country. We need to team up with people who are being exploited across all categories. And then, unfortunately, he was assassinated the following year. So this is not Andrew Yang. This is Martin Luther King. This is Thomas Paine. This is Milton Friedman. This is Elon Musk. I mean, like, a lot of people are looking up and saying, you know what? We're in a race we cannot win. We're in a race against the machines that we will lose on an epic scale. There are 3.5 million truck drivers in this country. Some are listening to this right now. My friends in Silicon Valley are working on trucks that can drive themselves, that they say will be on the highways in 5 to 10 years. So what then happens to the 3.5 million Americans who drive trucks for a living, or the 5 million plus Americans who work in truck stops, motels, and diners that rely on the truck stopping every day? Well, thank you. You're already thinking about your conversations at the bar. That Andrew Yang, how am I going to win over people to the Yang Gang? So the three main objections that people have are cost, inflation, and human behavior. So one, can we afford it? Our economy is up to $20 trillion. We can, if we have any mechanism to harness the gains from new technologies and innovations. And we get most of the money back anyway. Inflation, so this gets a little technical, but most of our consumer goods have not been going up in price, even as we've increased the money supply a lot. The three causes of inflation have unfortunately been very near and dear to us: housing, education, and healthcare. And those three industries are actually not open markets where they're not performing. Certainly technology is not bringing down the cost. Like college has gone up 2.5 times in price. Healthcare has this giant intermediary system. Housing, it's like local zoning regs. And then human behavior, people talk about how no one's going to work if they're getting this money, which people in this room know doesn't make any sense because we want to work anyway. And there are two populations that work less with some additional money coming in: new mothers who spend more time with their kids, and teenagers who spend more time in school and graduate at higher levels. Everyone else works the same. So some people might have a knee-jerk reaction saying it's socialism, which it is not. Just tell them it is capitalism, where income does not start at zero. And it's going to be good for markets, good for business, good for consumers, and people have money to spend. Look at this. I have forecast your conversation at the bar with your friends. It's going to be 80% in those lines.
And with that, we are out of time.
Well, it's harder and harder for Americans to compete with people in other parts of the world because with advanced technologies, you can get a college graduate in India or China to work for $6 an hour, something that a college graduate in the US would not be able to compete with. And that's happening more and more. And as you push those tasks abroad, you then actually find ways to automate them. So that's the progression. It goes outsource and then automation. And I had a friend who just came back from Asia, and it turns out that they're automating away the labor there too. And so this is not just an American phenomenon, this is worldwide. So outsourcing to me is something that is inevitable. You can't necessarily try and regulate it out of existence, but if there are economic benefits, then we should share in it. Like if companies are making more money from outsourcing what used to be American jobs, that would be acceptable if Americans were sharing in the value, and that's what I'm going to make happen as president.
Is there any other part of the world that has used universal basic income in a way that can show that it works?
Well, you don't even need to look at other parts of the world. Again, this has been in effect in Alaska for 37 years, which is a deeply conservative state. And in that state, it's already created thousands of jobs, improved children's health, decreased income inequality, and it's wildly popular. It was implemented by a Republican governor. And we paid for that with oil money. And what I'm saying to the American people is that technology is the oil of the 21st century, and what we're doing in Alaska for Alaskans, we can do for all Americans. So first, in terms of how you pay for it, I was talking about how Amazon paid zero in taxes. Netflix also paid zero in taxes. And so the big winners from artificial intelligence and the new economy are going to be this set of really big tech companies. And so the key is to try and get some of the money back from them and give it to you all. And then you'll spend it, and then you'll make the economy stronger. So if you look at what other countries have already done, every other advanced economy aside from ours already has a value-added tax, which would then give the American public a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad, And because our economy is up to 20 trillion plus, a value-added tax at even half the European level generates over 800 billion in new revenue. Now, this is the magic. If I give the money out to you all, the owners of this country, you spend it, and then your neighborhood economy grows, and then we get more tax revenue back. The trickle-up economy would actually work, unlike the trickle-down economy, which was total garbage and nonsense. They kind of knew that. It's even an insulting name. Think about it, the trickle-down economy. Anyway, so you get 800 billion from the value-added tax. You get about 400 billion in new tax revenue from economic growth, and then you save hundreds of billions on incarceration, homelessness services, emergency room health care, and other things that we spend hundreds of billions on now, over $1 trillion in the aggregate. And then here's the magic. If we put this money into our hands, what happens is our kids get stronger, they get better nutrition, graduation rates go up, health improves, mental health improves, relationships improve, domestic violence goes down, hospital visits go down. And there was one study that showed that if you were just to alleviate poverty in this country, we would increase GDP by 700 billion just on the basis of having stronger and healthier and more mentally healthy and productive people. So that's the magic of the trickle-up economies. The money doesn't disappear. It's investing in us. It's not left, it's not right, it's forward. And so that's like this is going to be much less expensive. We're going to get a lot of the money back. And I used to run businesses. And when you have a good business, you all the time talk about investing in your people. You say, if I invest in my people, then my organization will get stronger and do better. In the public space, we do the opposite. We're like, do not invest in those people at all if you can help it. And then we just end up paying at the back end when they wind up incarcerated or in our emergency room or in our services. When I was in New Hampshire, I'm very politician-y. When I was in New Hampshire a couple months ago, it was a corrections officer who said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we pay so much when they're in jail. So we have to start treating ourselves the way that good companies treat their people. We need to invest in ourselves, invest in our people. So according to the internet, I have an approximately 14% chance of winning the nomination. I am 5th right now. I've raised over $2 million, and most people have never heard of me. And 99% of my donors are small donors. The average donation is only $18. And what am I running on? I'm running on a platform of giving every American $1,000 a month. It's like people look up and be like, we can do that? And be like, yeah, Thomas Paine, Martin Luther King, Milton Friedman,
when you say it,
and one state of Alaska.
It doesn't sound realistic. It's too good to be true. Where's the money coming from? Like, what's the number again? What's the math? Give me the math. $1,000 a month. Everybody
$1,000 a month. Headline cost is about $3 trillion a year. $3
trillion. Where's that come from?
Yeah. But then you look at it, our current spending on income support programs is about $1.5 trillion.
And so that's welfare, income support, is that what you mean?
Yeah, and so it substitutes out, not entirely, but it reduces the headline cost from $3 trillion to $1.8 trillion. And then you have this $1.8 trillion, you get $800 billion from the value-added tax that falls most heavily on the Amazons and Googles and Facebooks of the
companies.
world. So then you're at $1 trillion. You get $400 billion from all the economic growth from putting $1,000 a month into our hands that we spend, and it circulates the economy. You end up generating a lot of new tax revenue.
That $4 billion will take time because it'll have to start.
Oh yeah, you probably have like
the government will have to front the cost.
Yeah, you front the cost for like a year, but the economic growth happens pretty quickly because the money goes right into the economy. And 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. So you know the money's going to get spent. You know this money's like going to go right back into bills and car repairs.
Oh, they're going to waste it, Andrew. They're not going to know what to do with it. They're going to buy drugs. They're just going to run around here and be frivolous. Don't you know what you're doing? You're making America lazy again.
Well, the beautiful thing is it's our money. Like, we're the owners and shareholders of this country, and we need to make the economy work for us as fast as possible. Because, again, we're in a race we can't win. If we continue just to see ourselves as inputs into the giant capital efficiency machine, we lose on an historic level, and you can already see it. So this is the fun part. Let's use Jeff Bezos as an example, because he's literally one of the richest Americans. He's worth $160 billion. I think it's down to $80 billion. So that's a divorce joke. It's still a lot of money. So we're going to extract billions of dollars from Jeff because he's the biggest shareholder of this $1 trillion tech company that we're then going to be extracting, tens, hundreds of billions. We're going to be getting billions of dollars from Jeff. So then if we send him $1,000 a month just to remind him he's an American, like, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like the, not, but there are real values to universalizing it. And Alaska proves this. So number one is you destigmatize it. It's not like some people get it and other people don't. Number two, it's not seen as a rich to poor transfer. It's not like I'm giving it to you, you're getting it from me. Number three, you get rid of any incentives to somehow underreport your income or to have to monitor people. You just don't care. You're like, you're an American, you're a citizen, here's $1,000. And this is why it's so universally popular in Alaska, because they're not means testing it there. They're just like, you're an Alaskan, here's your $2,000. And that's one reason why it's been so successful and it stood the test of time for almost 40 years through many, many different administrations, is that if someone else is getting it, then it's easier to attack it. But if we're all getting it, it's very, very hard to attack. Well, we have about 126 welfare programs in this country right now, and I do not want to take those away from Americans, because if you are relying upon programs for your survival and your way of life and feeding your family, the last thing you want to do is pull the rug out from under people. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer this $1,000 a month freedom dividend that's opt-in. But if you opt in, then you're foregoing benefits from some of these other programs. Now, many people would prefer $1,000 unconditional cash with no monitoring and no paperwork and all that stuff to their current program. So we're going to lighten the bureaucracy in those 126 programs, but we're not going to take anything away from someone if they think that their current benefits are superior to $1,000 cash.
Okay, next question from